Toe Nash was born in a trailer park in Louisiana. When he was 18, he had no birth certificate, no driver's license, and no social security number. He dropped out of school in 8th grade, couldn't read, had been arrested 5 times, and never played a single game of high school baseball. He also had a 95-mile-per-hour fastball, could hit 460-foot home runs from both sides of the plate, and had scouts saying he could be the next Babe Ruth. Unfortunately for Toe, the story that was so unbelievable that MLB front offices around the league literally thought it was a hoax ended with a 10-year prison sentence. This is the story of Toe Nash.
I'm talking about I had everything right there in front of me. You know, just one wrong turn.
The story of Toe Nash all begins in the small town of Sorrento, Louisiana. And I don't want to offend anyone from Sorrento, but there's only 1,400 of you, so the chances are low. It's basically a third world country. This is where Toe Nash was born and raised, and when I say born and raised, I mean he literally never left. With no birth certificate or social security card, he didn't even have proof he existed, so getting on a plane was way out of the realm of possibility, and by the time he was signed by the Devil Rays when he was 18, he had never even left the state of Louisiana. As a kid, Toe was cursed with poor circumstances and little opportunity. His mother abandoned the family, so his father raised both him and his sister in a small trailer while working on a sugarcane farm. Toe obviously didn't have much to do, so he just played baseball. Kind of. He played a form of baseball. Toe would go to a local bar, take bottle caps out of the trash can, and have his father throw them at him while he hit them with a broomstick. This is very similar to what a lot of poor Latin American players do growing up. The only difference is when they come to the United States, they usually learn to read and write in 2 languages. Toe couldn't even read his own. Toe had very little chance for a decent education. Fortunately for him, this had no effect on his ability to play baseball. By the time he was 12, the hours he spent hitting bottle caps had turned him into a beast. He was also 5'10", 140 pounds, so that didn't hurt either. But yeah, he was a beast. Toe didn't know it, but that year he would play a game that would change his life forever. Toe did what he always did. Absolutely dominated a bunch of kids who had no business being on the same field as him. He hit 2 home runs and struck out 17 out of 21 batters. These poor little kids had no chance. This was just a normal day for Toe. The only difference was Benny Latino, a part-time scout for the Tampa Bay Rays, was randomly in attendance. Not because he wanted to scout, but because his friend asked him to come and he had nothing better to do. After the game, Latino and Toe's lives went in completely different directions. Toe's wasn't very promising. He got expelled twice, once for fighting and another time for threatening to stab a teacher. He would completely drop out at the age of 14, and any dream he had of going pro was basically gone. However, his uncle was Hot Rod Williams. He's known for having a successful yet average NBA career. He's also basically the Bill Gates of Sorrento. He owned a sugarcane plantation where Toe would work with his father, and he also ran the Sugarcane Baseball League, a league where mostly 30 and 40-year-olds play and literally get paid in gator meat. There was no outfield fence, just a wall of sugarcane. If you hit a ball into the sugarcane, it was a home run. Yeah, this is basically the field of broken dreams, and if you don't believe how unprofessional this league is, just try Googling it. It does not exist. Toe would work on the farm and play baseball in this league, not because he was training to go pro, but because he lived in Sorrento, and honestly, there was really nothing better to do. Benny Latino would go on to become a full-time scout for the Devil Rays, and 6 years after he watched Toe crush the dreams of a bunch of 12-year-olds, he couldn't get him out of his head. He searched prospect lists and local news articles to find Toe, but Toe hadn't played in an organized baseball league since he was 14. So Latino went to Sorrento and just started asking random people where he could find Toe, and since there's only like 10 people in the entire town, they all knew where they could find him. Just go to the Sugarcane League. He went to their next game and watched Toe hit 2 460-foot home runs from both sides of the plate. Latino instantly offered Toe the opportunity to go to West Virginia to try out in front of the Devil Rays head of scouting. This would be Toe's first time leaving Louisiana, and since he didn't have a driver's license or the ability to read street signs, he had his friend drive him. When Toe arrived to the tryout, he was thrown 25 pitches from both sides of the plate and hit 26 of them for home runs. He then went to the mound to pitch and started throwing 90-mile-per-hour fastballs. However, it was pretty obvious that this guy had no idea what he was doing. A pitching coach gave him one minor technique change, and by the end of the session, he was throwing 95 miles per hour. So yeah, the Rays immediately signed him to a $30,000 deal. And this might be the biggest tragedy in the whole story, because if this guy just went to high school, he could have failed every class. I'm sure the good folks in Sorrento would have let it slide, and he would have made millions of dollars in the draft. But Toe was not complaining. He was a professional baseball player. And when this story got out, Major League Baseball teams who had never heard of this guy literally didn't even believe it. But when the news outlets around the country started covering the story, they had to. It was everywhere. This attention brought good things and bad things for Toe. The good things were awesome. He got a book deal, they were writing a Hollywood script about his life, and even Oprah reached out to have him on her show. The bad things weren't as good. The media did a little digging and quickly found out Toe wasn't exactly a model citizen. Toe had been arrested 5 times in 10 months, a few times for drug possession, a felony robbery, and a case of domestic violence. The Rays said they had no knowledge of these arrests, but if you know anything about how the Rays operated during this era, they probably did know and just didn't care. They would even go on to say that they would have signed him anyway, and as bad as these charges sound, the judge would drop all 5 of them, probably because he thought, you know what, this story is way too good to stop now. It probably won't end well, but whatever, let's just see how this plays out. And I'm glad he did, because the story behind these charges really don't make Toe sound like too bad of a guy. Yeah, him and his friend did beat up a guy and steal his wallet, but that guy later on said that he had it coming and completely forgave Toe. And the domestic abuse charge is pretty insane. It went down between Toe and his 41-year-old girlfriend. Yes, 41. She says she was originally attracted to Toe because he was very good at babysitting her children. I also will add that Toe's name is Toe because he wears a size 18 shoe. So yeah, maybe that's why she liked him. But anyway, when he was signed with the Rays, he basically told her that he was leaving town forever, so she pulled a knife on him. The judge ruled that she was the aggressor, so Toe would be free to play baseball, and also free to commit worse crimes in the future, but we'll get back to that later. In the meantime, Toe was sent to train with the Devil Rays in Tampa Bay, only there was one big problem. He had to get on a plane. Obviously, Toe had never done this before, so when he arrived in Atlanta to get on his connecting flight, he panicked. He left all his belongings on the first plane, got lost in the airport, and thought he had to pick up his bags, so he called his uncle crying, saying he wanted to go home. Fortunately for Toe, Hot Rod Williams coached him on how airports work, and Toe was able to get on the next flight to Tampa. When he arrived in Tampa, he immediately became the story. When he got to the plate or mound, he looked extremely unorthodox and completely out of place, but he hit the ball as far as anyone and threw 95 miles per hour. The teams who witnessed this were shocked and extremely impressed. However, it was obvious that because of Toe's unique upbringing, he would require special attention. His teammates were constantly having to teach him about basic things. For example, one time he told his teammates he was hungry, they told him he should order a pizza, and he literally had no idea what that meant. When the pizza arrived, he took the pizza, shut the door, and never paid. The Rays realized that Toe would require special guidance, so after spending a few weeks in Tampa, he was sent to California to live with his agent's brother, former MLB All-Star Harold Reynolds. He acted as a temporary hitting and life coach for Toe. He introduced him to people like Tony Gwynn and Eddie Murray. They went to the movies together, and he even took him clothes shopping. Toe was living the dream in California. But it was obvious that coming where he came from, this was extremely overwhelming. Toe would leave California to play for the Rays rookie ball team in West Virginia. Everything about this guy is very weird, and his stats were no exception. He played in 47 games and struck out 69 times in 171 at-bats. That means he struck out 40% of the time. Despite this, he was 6th in the league in home runs with 8 and batted .240. He was ranked as the 11th best prospect in the league, just one spot behind David Wright. Not bad for a guy who hadn't played organized baseball since Little League. Unfortunately for Toe, he went back to Sorrento, Louisiana that offseason and had sex with a 15-year-old girl. Yep, pretty despicable move by Toe. He was immediately released from the Devil Rays. The original charges were extremely grim, and if he was found guilty, he would spend the rest of his life in prison. But these charges were later lowered to a consensual sexual act with a minor. He pled guilty and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. However, the judge allowed Toe to walk free on a suspended sentence, meaning he was basically on probation. Toe was given a second chance. He had overcome poverty, lack of education, multiple criminal convictions, and in 2002, he signed with the Cincinnati Reds. Toe had learned his lesson, and this time, the Reds would give him the guidance and support he needed to succeed. And in January 2002, Greg Toe Nash was arrested after getting in a bar fight, failed a drug test, and spent the rest of his 10-year sentence in prison. He would never play baseball again. This is how the story of Toe Nash ends, and it is an extremely sad one. He is a player who, if born under better circumstances, according to scouts, could have literally been the next Babe Ruth. And if you ask his teammates, coaches, and agents, Toe Nash was an extremely gentle, kind, and polite person. But based on his criminal record before, during, and even after his playing career, this may not seem to be the case. The question has been asked many times, where would Toe Nash be if he didn't return to Sorrento after his rookie season? We'll never know the answer to this, but like his former teammate Johnny Gomes said, if this story happens again in the near future, I bet he will have a handler. But that stop sign does not get put up until there's a car accident. Toe Nash was that car accident. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe. Happy holidays. I love all of you. Thank you.
I remember him saying like he was hungry and like he wanted some food, and we told him to order a pizza. He had pretty much no idea what that meant. Dude answers the door and just grabs the pizza and shuts the door. Had no idea how that process worked. It was like a caveman educating a 21-year-old on, you know, lights and tires and signs and things like that. It was weird.